Hi.
Hola.
Hi, hier ist Mr. Döse.
This is Michael Bradley.
Hey, I'm Memphis.
Hey.
Hola. Hello.
I'm here with soccer.com.
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 And I'm talking with my friends soccer.com.
See you soon.
Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my first look plus on-feet video of the brand new Puma evoSPEED 17 SLS in the safety yellow, gecko green, and black colorway. Now, this is technically an alternate top-end version of what's available in the new evoSPEED 17 lineup. At the top end, or the lightest model, you have the SL, which is the one that comes with a 10-game warning, letting you know that they're not going to last more than 10 uses, which is generally pretty accurate based on previous models that I've tried. That version of the shoe doesn't seem to be available in North America as of yet, but we do have the SLS, which features the same SL platform in terms of the sole plate and stud pattern, but an upper that's supposed to be a lot more durable. And based on my experience with previous SLS models, it will be a lot more durable. They've made some changes in comparison to previous SLSs, which have pretty much all been the same. And we're going to talk about those changes and just the general tech specs, performance features, the weight, as well as how these things fit and feel in today's video. So if you're interested in learning more, stick around and watch the entire video. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, there'll be a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below in the description. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with the SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $200 retail price. You can actually get these for, I believe, about $130 right now. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. So, given the evoSPEED name, that would imply the fact that these are very lightweight. And of course, it does have SL in the name, which stands for super light. Don't ask me what the second S stands for. Maybe strong, I don't really know. Puma never really specified. We just know that the SLS is more durable than the SL. Nonetheless, this is a very lightweight shoe. In a size 9.5 US, these guys weigh in at an extremely lightweight 5.1 ounces, which is almost a full ounce lighter than the Nike Mercurial Vapor 11 in the same size, which is very, very impressive. And this shoe does have an upper that is actually going to hold up. It's not going to fall apart after 10 uses like the regular SL model will. So if you just want the lightest possible feel from your shoe, from a shoe that's actually going to last a reasonable amount of time, the SLS is your lightest option out there by a full ounce, which is a lot considering that 6 ounces feels very, very light. So 5.1 ounces on your feet is essentially a weightless sensation that is difficult to describe. You kind of just have to experience it for yourself. So if you're in the market for a super light shoe, this is one that you should definitely have your eyes on. As far as other tech specs and just the materials and construction of the upper is concerned, the SLS model hasn't really changed from when we first saw it introduced to basically 2 generations after that. It was essentially just different graphics, but the same recycled shoe. This time around, there's nothing overly significant in terms of changes that they've made, but the synthetic to me does feel better quality this time around, which is definitely a good thing. It's advertised as a super strong Japanese microfiber synthetic material, which that doesn't really explain all that much. But it does, like I said, feel softer than what we've seen from previous generations. It's not overly thin in terms of what you can actually see, but in terms of feel on the ball, it doesn't necessarily have any kind of cushioning to it. It does have a very pingy kind of barefoot sensation, but I wouldn't necessarily put it on par in regards to quality when compared to something like the Tajin synthetic on the Vapor 11. I think in terms of thin synthetics, Nike is pretty tough to beat just in regards to general quality. But like I said, the quality overall is definitely good enough for a top-end shoe and to provide that barefoot feel, in my opinion. You're also going to find a speed frame structure that's internal on the shoe. It's a liner, and I'll open up the shoe so you guys can see exactly what that looks like. But basically, it's a kind of synthetic suede, almost microfiber material lining the inside of the shoe, just adding structure to ensure for the most responsive sensation possible, even though the upper is, of course, very, very thin. And you do get a decently responsive feel from this particular shoe. As far as the surface of the shoe is concerned, it's left pretty much completely smooth. There's a very, very slight texturing to it, but nothing that you're really going to be able to feel on the ball. And then you can see there are some slightly shiny bits. That's actually a grip text texturing, which you will find consistent on the Evo Power line as well. It's Puma's variation of a wet control element, but again, like most wet control elements, it's not something that I find to be particularly noticeable in regards to actually wearing the shoes and actual performance. Now, the actual setup, very straightforward as far as the shoe is concerned. Central lacing system that runs nice and deep, so you're able to get a good secure fit on your foot, which is obviously very important. You have pretty much a standard layout for the tongue itself, which again, very fitting for this style of shoe. A standard low cut at the back, which is still the best way of doing things if you are trying to make the lightest possible product, which Puma has essentially done here with the SLS. You do get this really nicely textured heel liner at the back with a decent amount of padding considering that this shoe is only 5.1 ounces. The actual texturing itself almost reminds me of like a basketball or a football, if that makes any sense. I guess more like a football, in that it has this kind of slight little almost dimpled texturing to it all the way through, which I really like, and it does grip your socks quite nicely. The insole, fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It's pretty straightforward. It's a mesh liner on top. You have some perforations throughout the front, 2/3 of the insole. It's a single layer of this red foam that actually does have some decent thickness to it. It's not overly thin given how light the shoe actually is, which is definitely a good thing. And then moving on to the sole plate and stud pattern, that is a direct carryover to the original SL evoSPEED that we've had for several generations now. So nothing has changed here, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a P-Bax material with, of course, the one-piece heel counter directly attached at the rear of the shoe, but it's very, very thin, super, super flexible in the forefoot area. Of course, you have the speed track system running through the midfoot to add some rigidity without adding any kind of significant amount of weight. The one quirk of this particular sole plate and stud pattern is the fact that this is really a setup that's made more so for more premium, firm, natural grass playing surfaces. If you play on hard ground, you're perhaps going to run into some issues with stud pressure given how thin this is. But if you tend to play on nicer, well-kept natural grass fields that have some softness to them, you're definitely not going to have any issues in regards to stud pressure. Not recommended for use on artificial grass, by the way. You're going to have some problems in regards to stud pressure on an artificial playing surface. But of course, these aren't made for artificial grass. And then of course the stud pattern itself. It's kind of interesting in that you do have a 3-stud layout at the heel, 1 conical stud on the medial side and then 2 bladed ones on the lateral side. They did that mainly to shave weight on the sole plate, which again, they did pretty effectively. You don't really notice this aspect as interesting as it looks when you're actually playing in the shoes. It's there more so just to be lightweight and look cool to a certain extent. And then you can see in the forefoot area, you get the 2 bladed studs at the base of the forefoot and then 4 conical studs that are very long and very aggressive in terms of just providing nice bite and traction. Again, on a well-kept natural grass field, the grip that you get from this particular stud pattern is up there with the Nike Mercurials. It's very, very effective, but again, given specific field conditions that the field you're playing on is a little bit nicer. Also, because the sole plate is so flexible, the shoe bends with your foot really nicely, meaning that you're gonna have as many studs under your feet as possible, which is something that I think a lot of people don't consider. It's fine to have a stiffer sole plate, but it does mean that there's just gonna be less give to the shoe when you are under, I guess, more intense movements and your foot is kind of contorted a little bit. This moves with your foot very, very well, which ultimately does end up resulting in better traction because you have as many studs under your feet as possible at all times. So that's pretty much it in regards to tech specs. Very, very impressive shoe. As far as the design and looks are concerned, it's an evoSPEED, what can I say? It's got the form stripe on the one side, it's got the evoSPEED on the medial side, and then it has its pattern for the year. So you can see on this particular colorway, you have the safety yellow, neon yellow at the front, the Gecko green, which is a lime green at the heel, with the pattern where it fades, transitions through the midfoot. Pretty straightforward as far as design is concerned. And then of course the lime green outsole as well. Overall, I think the shoe looks very good. If you're looking for a bright colorway, this is definitely going to do that for you. But it's pretty much a rinse and repeat type style for the evoSPEED line that we've been seeing for the last couple of years. It's different, yes, but not that much different. So overall, I guess if you don't like this shoe, you probably just don't like the look of Puma shoes in general, because they all look very, very similar to this. But nonetheless, I don't mind the look. It's just nothing that we haven't really seen before from the Puma brand. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. That's enough about the tech specs though. Let's take a look at how these things fit and feel on feet. So you can see on the right shoe, I actually swapped in some black reflective SR4U replacement laces. If you guys are interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen, as well as a link down below in the description. So if you're interested in a pair, be sure to go ahead and check that out. So in regards to putting them on, pretty straightforward, honestly. You have a standard layout here, so there's nothing too tricky about it. Tying the laces tight, very, very good in that you do have a nice deep lacing system. So you get good tightness down low, closer in the forefoot area, which I really like to have. I would rather always have a deeper lacing system rather than a more shallow one, just because you have as much adjustability to the shoe as possible, which generally results in a better fit most of the time. So that's something that I really like about this particular design. I'm just going to tuck these in because I have to. It's just something I always do. Put the left shoe on really quickly so you can get a look at both of them on feet. Again, very, very effective in terms of locking your foot in place. It does have a very low cut at the heel and kind of side of the ankle, as you can see, but it still does have a decent amount of depth to it. Your heel doesn't feel like it's slipping around or anything like that. I know that can be a concern for a lot of people with some of these extremely lightweight, low cut shoes, just because historically that's kind of been the case, but no issues with these. They seem to fit very, very securely, which is always nice to see. Almost got these on. One more second. Oh, I'm struggling real bad. All right, here we go. Now you can see them on feet. They fit really nicely. I think the one thing that they definitely have changed in comparison to previous SLS models is that they did tweak the shape a little bit, especially in the toe box forefoot area, where it is a little bit lower volume and it just fits more snug in general. This is probably the best fitting evoSPEED of this particular style generation that we've had so far, which is expected because it is the latest model. It's just surprising that it took them 3 or 4 generations to get the fit right. So these feel really good to me. I like how they fit. If you're comparing it to something like a Mercurial Vapor, which I guess is the direct comparison for this shoe, that's kind of the standard as far as fit is concerned. It doesn't have quite as snug of a fit, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, it's a matter of personal preference. The one-piece design of the upper on the Vapor is going to just feel a lot different than these, especially considering how much thinner those are. But these feel very comfortable. It's got a good flexibility to it. And again, not really too much in the way of break-in time required. I would say that if you had this on one foot and the Vapor on the other, most people might actually find this shoe to be a little bit more comfortable just because it isn't as tight or as restrictive feeling. Again, that's more a matter of personal preference, but this definitely does have, I guess, a more generous amount of width and volume inside the shoe versus the Vapor, which is pretty much what I would describe as being as tight as possible. So in regards to width, these are going to be suitable for most people. They're obviously not super, super wide, but they're definitely not narrow either, unlike the Vapor, which not really recommended for wide feet. I think that if you did have wider feet, you probably could get away with these. You're not going to get too much stretch out of the upper material itself, but overall, they definitely do seem suitable for a wide variety of foot types. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing a size 9.5 US here, which is basically what I wear in pretty much all evoSPEED models, a half size up from my usual size 9 US. And the fit is pretty much perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would personally recommend going a half size up in order to achieve the best possible fit. So that is pretty much it, guys, for my review of the evoSPEED 17 SLS. If you guys are interested in a pair for yourself, again, you can click the little eye in the corner of the screen or the first link down below in the description. That'll take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick them up below their normal $200 retail price. If you have any questions regarding these shoes, leave them down below in the comments and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.